Hi friend, I'm April Porter with the Heretical Heart, where we use human design to make the invisible visible for entrepreneurs and creatives who are ready to stop becoming who everyone else needed them to be and start trusting who they actually are. And today I'm sharing the why behind the new customized human design report, the Heretical Frequency, which is a deconditioning through music and human design approach that I created. And there's nothing else like this out there yet. I have looked. So if you're like most people, you've done the therapy, the journaling, the mindset work, the coaching, you've read the books, you've done the programs, you understand the patterns better than most people understand anything about themselves. And the pattern is still there. And it's not because you haven't worked hard enough. It's because insight and healing are not the same thing. And today I want to talk about why and what actually reaches the place where the real work needs to happen. So here's the thing about conditioning. It does not live in your thoughts. It lives in your nervous system, in the patterns your body learned when you were young, when you were trying to survive, when you were figuring out how to be loved or safe or accepted. And often this happens before the age of 7. A lot of it, most of it happens before the age of 7. But understanding a pattern doesn't automatically change it. Your body doesn't update through comprehension. It updates through experience, through repetition, through something that bypasses the analytical mind entirely and goes straight to where the memory actually lives. So this is why you can have complete intellectual understanding of why you undercharge and still panic when you raise your rates. It's why you can know exactly how you overdeliver and you still do it anyway. It's why you can understand your human design chart in extraordinary detail and still run the same conditioning patterns as before you've even ever heard of it. So the chart shows you the map, but knowing the map is not the same as walking the territory. So why music, right? Music is one of the few things that bypasses the brain's meaning-making centers entirely. It doesn't go through the analytical filter first. It goes straight into the limbic system, the part of the brain that processes emotion, memory, and safety. So this is why a song can hand you back a feeling you forgot you were allowed to have. It's why a melody can reach a version of you that words can't touch. Why you can be driving somewhere completely ordinary and a song come on and suddenly it breaks you open in a way that you didn't even know you were closed. Music holds versions of yourself you buried, and it carries the emotional frequency of a feeling before your mind gets a chance to edit it. And often those memories are connected to times before you had intellectual understanding of what was happening. And for deconditioning work, for the work of peeling back what you learned so you can remember the truth of who you actually are, that's not a small thing. That's the entire mechanism. And when you pair that with human design, with the specific themes, fears, and conditioning patterns that live in your particular chart, you get something that no framework, worksheet, or coaching program can replicate. You get direct access to the layer where the conditioning actually lives. So I want to tell you a story. Years ago, I was a young mom, and I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was overwhelmed. I was doing everything for everybody else and was losing sight of who I actually was. My identity had shifted, and I didn't yet know this new version of me. I wasn't the old version of me, and I was somewhere in between. And my husband gave me a chance to have a break one day. He said, just take a few hours to yourself. I think you need a break. And so I left, and one of the first things that I did was I plugged in my iPod and played an old song that reminded me of this old version of myself, the version of myself that felt free and independent and kind of wild, and a part that I hadn't been in touch with in a long time. And what that did for me was it gave me an injection back of who I really am underneath all that I had taken on in a short amount of time. I became a wife and a mom within just a couple years, and though I loved that and it was everything to me, I missed this part of me. And music was an entryway back into finding myself. And so I share that because when you use music that is familiar to you, it can bring you back to parts of yourself that you feel like you maybe have left behind or lost. And when we use new music, we program new ways of being into our soul and our body. And so this is why I use music to facilitate deconditioning. And I've been using this in the background for a while with myself. And I have a story that I'll tell you about it in the next video of how this actually really became a more concrete way of deconditioning that's happened over the last 5 years for me. But it's something I've been doing my whole life and I just didn't realize it. And if you're a big music fan like I am, maybe you've been doing this already too. So music is one of the fastest way back to yourself that isn't always a framework, because it's just a playlist. It's not something that you have to check off and do. It's something you embody and you experience. And our human design chart gives us a map of where the conditioning lives. Every energy type carries a specific not self pattern. Every center, every gate, every channel holds its own flavor and survival strategy. And most of that conditioning is not touched by intellectual understanding alone. It's why we use things like tapping to move through some of this conditioning. And I find that tapping is very effective and I love it as a tool. But sometimes doing it on your own isn't as effective as doing it with somebody else, and that's not always practical. So I find that music is another pathway into this. It doesn't mean that one is better than the other, and in fact, I find that they both work well together, but you can use this as a deconditioning tool that isn't something that feels like heavy work. What I started exploring, first for myself and then more intentionally, was what happens when you take a specific theme of someone's chart and pair it with music that carries the emotional frequency of what wants to be released or remembered. Not as therapy, not as a formula, but as a practice, a returning. That's what became the Heretical Frequency. So if you want to experience what this actually feels like before committing to the full report, I've put together a free sampler built just around your specific energy type. It's a small piece of the larger framework, just enough to feel what it does. And the link is in the description below. So go try it with your headphones in and see what happens. And if you want to know more, come back. I'll tell you the origin story in the next video and tell you more about the full report.